Wednesday was the International Day of the Forest, with data showing that rising demand for wood products continues to frustrate Kenya's efforts to attain the UN recommended minimum forest cover of 10% by 2020. Data from the World Bank indicates that Kenya currently has a forest cover of 7.8%, representing a total of 44,130 square kilometers. Joining us at this moment to talk a bit about where we are as a nation is Mohammed Awer, the CEO of WWF. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I read those graphics, there's always a back and forth over which statistics are accurate, which one are not. Do you agree? Do we have 7.8% forest cover, about 44,000 or so square kilometers? Does that sound accurate to you?
Thank you very much. I think you raised an important point. But there is also a more important point, which is the numbers are not particularly important. The important thing is where we are.
Okay.
And what are the consequences of what we are dealing with.
Okay.
And what are the issues driving these numbers, behind the numbers.
Okay.
So
I can give you a chance to answer those questions now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So in terms of what is the story behind the numbers? 7.5%, 10%.
10%, exactly.
So there are all these numbers said around. For me, the most important thing is that we have a problem. And we have an opportunity that we are not seizing. So it is really bringing the two together, sorting out the problems, so that we get to this area of opportunities.
Help us to understand the problems. What would you say is the biggest threat or are the biggest threats to the Kenya forest sector?
To be honest, I will say the biggest problem to the forest sector is insufficient investments in forest conservation and management.
By government or by private sector?
By all of us Kenyans.
Oh, by Kenyans?
By Kenyans, from the government to private sector to communities to people. And for me, the biggest issue is that we don't actually understand the potential we have in forest. For me, I see forest as the unexplored gold in Kenya. And this is what we want to get to. And because we don't see the value of forest, we have all these problems of illegal logging. We have a problem of encroachment in forest areas. And we have the whole problem of limited investments in institutions that are responsible for forest management. If you just think about the perception of Kenyans, Ministry of Environment and Forestry or Natural Resources as it is not considered particularly a prestigious appointment for anybody.
I don't know what the current CS would say about that.
But in many places, this is considered the most important thing.
In other countries? In
other countries. Let me give you an example of Sweden. Sweden is a very small country. It accounts for less than 1% of forest cover globally. But at the same time, you will be surprised to know that Sweden accounts for 10% of timber that is traded globally, whether it is sawn timber, pulp, or paper. And it gives 120 billion Swedish kronas, which is equivalent to 1.5 trillion Kenya shillings to the government. And if we just invest in a small part that Sweden is investing, which is less than the Mao Forest Complex, we can easily finance all our national budget from forestry. So this is the story that Kenyans don't know. So
before we even get to investment, I see the bigger issue. You said one of the big issues is underinvestment in the forest sector, but I see a bigger issue as understanding the potential. Kenyans cannot invest in what they don't understand. You've brought in a new aspect here. Help us understand. Help us talk through how can you get Kenyans to understand that potential? How can you change perceptions that have been ingrained in our minds for so long that forests are, it's okay if they're gone, if they're here today and gone tomorrow. It's not a big deal.
Something has started with CS Tobiko, that we now have a lot of media and around the forest and forest conservation in Kenya. The thing with Kenya is we really have to sustain this, and we have to take it to all levels. We had the International Day of Forest celebrations at the Karura Forest on Wednesday. Yesterday, the CS was in Ndaika Dam working about the same thing, and there's a plan to roll out in all the 47 counties. So if we continue with this initiative, not just the ministry and the Kenya Forest Service, but all Kenyans, that is going to be the way that we are going to get to that. And at the WWF, we are really working on this on 28th of this month, which is Wednesday next week. We are organizing a major tree planting event in Bomet County with the governor, Dr. Laboso. And she has organized to bring together 300 schools. And on average, if you put 500 students per school, we are getting to 150 children in just one day.
Okay.
And if you multiply that with the communities that they represent, the whole idea of child to parent initiative, and you multiply by even 4, we are getting to more than half a million people on that particular day.
Fair enough. These stories of tree planting and the newfound enthusiasm to get involved in tree planting are good, but are they sustainable? Next year at a time like this, will Kenyans still take this topic seriously, in your view, because I know this is something you've been observing for a long time?
I believe we are going to sustain the initiative because for us in WWF, we are saying that we want to get to 1 billion trees.
1 billion trees?
1 billion trees in 30 years' time.
Okay.
So we have a plan rolled out for the next 30 years. But as I said, the most important thing is not to tell people to plant trees. The culture in Kenya has been to tell people plant 10 trees. But you must tell people to plant 10 valuable trees where they can earn income.
Okay. Give us case studies, like in Bomet now. What is a valuable tree like in Bomet? How can the people of Bomet earn income from the sort of initiative you're starting next week or next month?
Bomet has a lot of opportunities. Bomet can plant different kinds of trees. They can plant avocados, which will take short time to mature. They can also invest in biomass or energy producing trees for the tea factories in that area. So the opportunities in Bomet are limitless, from energy trees to food crop fruit trees to timber trees, because of the potential of that area. But what that says is that we need to go to every county and do an ecological assessment of that area and propose trees that are most appropriate for that area. If you go to a place like Makueni, the most appropriate trees will be fruit trees, mangoes, citrus, and that is what we need to promote. When you go to coastal area, the trees that you want to promote will be fruit trees and also trees like casuarina, which is very fast growing. So there isn't a universal description. What we'll do is to go case by case and
county or region by region.
Promote trees that are appropriate for every place we go to.
Okay. Yes. Some of our viewers watching at home might think, well done WWF, good job to the government, CS Tobacco, etc. But that's all. You know, this does not concern me as an individual. I want to carry on with my life. What role would you tell our viewer watching is their contribution to greening Kenya?
Well, their contribution is to seize the opportunity. You know, people are working hard in different things, but I'm telling them these are low-hanging fruits. Invest in trees for business. And this is our message to people. Don't do trees for the greater good. You know, it's not that tree planting is a nice thing to do, but do plant trees with a business mind.
Okay, help me out. So I'm here. I don't have any tree right now. I live in Nairobi.
Let us say that you come
as a case study.
Let's say that you come from the slopes of Abayas, and what you see, unfortunately, in a number of places like Gaita and Maharati areas, these farmers struggle with maize. You know, because of the extreme low temperatures in that place, maize takes about a year to mature. But if they plant trees like bamboo, they are likely to get so much money that they can afford to buy all kinds of maize or all kinds of food crops.
Okay.
So what we are saying is see trees as a business. You know, do an assessment of the small area you have, even if you have 5 acres farm or 2 acres, and see is what you are doing the most appropriate. Is it appropriate to put two cows on 5 acres in the slopes of Abadeas? Or it makes sense to put it all under bamboo and wait for 3 years, then you start harvesting?
Okay.
Because bamboo is now an industry that's evolving in places like China, and we want to do the same in Kenya. So we want to really evolve forest-based industry in this country.
Let's talk about the individual who takes you seriously, does 2 acres, he's got his trees and he's done the assessment. Where does he sell them? How does he get information to know? Is there a portal? Is there a location? Is there a hotline?
That is part of the investments we need to make. We have had discussions with the ministry, first to give sufficient resources to the institutions that exist, the Forest Service, the Forest Research Institute, the Forest College, to produce the right people for forest extension, and of course also to invest in the marketing side. But what you need to know is that actually Kenya is a net importer of timber.
Okay.
We import from the Central Africa region, we import from Southern Africa. Many people don't know this.
Unbelievable.
That means that we already have a market. We don't have to struggle with the market. The market is already here.
There's local demand.
We just need to supply the market.
So okay. I never thought this discussion would go this way. I feel like we're having a business discussion, but you're saying the global picture is that if Kenyans can look at it as a business, then we are going to achieve not just personal goals for Kenya, but also the goals of the nation, which is to increase forest cover. And
we also finance the budget. We don't have to struggle, because what I'm telling you, 1.5 billion is maybe more than almost twice the money raised by KRA.
Yes.
And you just have this money easy.
So would you say there's a link between deforestation, which is what we've seen happening in this country, and poverty?
Well, the two are linked. A report was released by HSBC Bank, you know the HSBC Bank, yesterday, and it shows Kenya to be one of the 10 most vulnerable countries to climate change. And one of the drivers of climate change is deforestation. And because of that, people are becoming poorer. Why are they becoming poorer? Because we have now increased frequencies of droughts and other extreme weather events, land degradation resulting from climate change. So in a way, yes, as we remove forest, we become poorer.
Become poorer.
Yes.
Do you agree with the approach the government is taking when it comes to reforestation? What do you think they're doing very well? But where would you say we need to tweak this a little bit, given the chance?
As a government, we have always been committed to forest management, conservation and management. What we haven't done is to really see this as a national priority and give it sufficient investments. Look at the budget of Minister of Environment and Forestry compared to other ministries. If we can just get it right, then that is the thing. So we need to move from doing it as a nice thing to do, something good, to do this some business CSR approach.
I think it's taken as a CSR
project. Or government commitment to international obligations. But we just see it as a national priority. That we just see this as a goal that we need to mine properly. And for your information, it is not, you know, deep pit mining. This is just alluvial gold. It's just on the surface.
You don't have to dig deep to get. Finally, I want to hear from you on this matter. You've told us about what's happening in Sweden, and some of our viewers might say that's in Europe. They have things figured out. Can you give us case studies of African countries that possibly were where we are now and found a way out of it? Some, you know, there are many who say Africa has so many problems that prioritizing on one is difficult because, you know, the interview you had before was about healthcare. So the government also has to think about healthcare. After this, we'll have another interview with another issue as well. What can you tell us about what some other African countries have done that you would say are success stories?
With due respect, I will tell you, our problem is that we always want to compare ourselves with people who we shouldn't compare ourselves with. You know, we should compare ourselves with the best in the world.
Okay.
It is not enough to say, oh, but our friends in Tanzania are not doing as great as we are doing. And because we have raised our benchmark to that level of other African places,
countries,
so long as we get to where they are, we are fine. Why can't we get what is what is the maximum that we can get? And this is why I have a problem with that. So
benchmark
I don't want to,
with Europe.
I mean, there are some countries that have done well in other areas. Botswana. You know, Botswana
yes.
is a country that has done its livestock production in an excellent way. It's a smaller place. It is more arid than Kenya, but it has access to European markets. That Botswana is considered as one of the best case studies in terms of livestock management. We are not there, but you can do even better than Botswana. So even these three crops, Africa hasn't done very well. I mean, the Central Africa region is endowed with forests. They have the second largest forest extent in the world. So they are not so much worried about replanting and this. But that's not what we want to do. We just want to see that there is a potential for Kenya, that we just must go all together and seize this opportunity.
Tell me a little bit about the Keep Kenya Breathing campaign.
This is a campaign based on what we are saying, that there is opportunity in forest conservation and management. And we want to bring Kenyans together, from private sector, from government to communities, to plant 1 billion trees. If we have 1 billion trees in this country, then we are different.
Okay. I doubt this is the first campaign you've done of the same nature, or to get Kenyans to plant trees. What's different with this one that gives you hope that it will achieve that goal?
The difference with this one is the focus. We are setting realistic timelines of 30 years. And we think with the right investment, with the good engagement with private sector, of course, we don't expect all the money to come from government. We are engaged with groups like Commercial Bank of Africa to start working about green financing, to see this as a place that they can really invest their money over long term and get higher returns.
Okay.
So this is the thing, that this is more carefully thought through a process, and we're engaging with wider stakeholders. We are not prescriptive. We will be receptive to ideas from those who know better, especially something like financing. So that is the difference, and we are very confident that this is going to be very transformational and impactful.
I think we leave that conversation here. Mohammed Awer, CEO, WWF. Fascinating conversation, I must say. And thank you for bringing a new aspect to reforestation that we honestly haven't been talking about on this particular platform. And on a related note, the Kenya Forestry Service officers have recovered 8 tons of bambaru wood, estimated at 800,000 Kenya shillings in Maisha area, Witu in Lamu County. The KFS officers, who are part of the multi-agency effort in Boni Forest, were tipped off by locals on the illegal timber harvest activities happening within the forest. 3 loggers fled the scene before the officers arrived, but local police in the area have launched a manhunt for them. Now, speaking during that recovery process, the Witu Forestation Manager, that's Chief Inspector John Bori, alongside Lamu Ecosystem Conservator Mr. Evans Maneno, said that the wood is highly sought after since it's used to make boats, furniture and for building. This recovery comes after environmentalists planted mangrove seedlings in the larger Lamu County to celebrate the International Forest Day.